Welcome to our MBAide speaker series. I am Grace Safarian, the founder of MBAide. You are joining us today for an insightful session with a seasoned IT infrastructure leader, MBAide associate Hodard Hazwinayo, known for driving digital transformation, operational excellence, and business-aligned technology strategy across various industries. With a Master of Science in Internet Systems and an MBA, Hodard bridges the gap between technical execution and strategic vision. His expertise spans virtualization, cloud technologies, cybersecurity, and data center management, all delivered through a strong foundation in leadership, performance, optimization, and data-driven decision-making. Hodard is passionate about aligning IT infrastructure with business growth, mentoring high-performing teams, and making complex tech solutions accessible to all stakeholders. He also actively contributes as a tech blogger, cybersecurity advocate, and open source contributor. So don't miss this opportunity to gain practical insights from a leader who truly knows how to turn infrastructure into impact. So let's welcome Hodard Hazwinayo, who is presenting about how to approach vendor locking. Take it away, Hodard.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Hodard Hazwinayo. Today we have a good topic. How do we approach for the vendor lock-in? Let me start first of all. There is one from my experience in enterprise IT strategy, cloud transformation, cybersecurity, regulatory compliance, and change management. I help an organization align with their technology infrastructure to be solution oriented and also a business turnover to the investment they used to invest. My MBA has been invaluable on the top of my masters within IT to get me into deep to have some approach about the procurement, vendor negotiation, benchmarking artifact, where it becomes how do we deal at different vendors that do we need to partner with to the any solutions that we need to acquire to the business organizations. I used to have an experience from the different industry. There is telecom, there's edtech, there's finitech, there's social security. Currently, I'm an IT architecture, a consultant at GFA Globe Limited. Thank you. An introduction. What is a vendor lock-in? Why is it matter? And this vendor lock-in, it is a good topic nowadays. Most of the business institution, organization, government, they fall into. I will go through in detail and then to be able to understand. Understanding vendor lock-in, most of us, most of the business leaders, I think apart from for these softwares, there's a kind of three lock-in. If now we say vendors, it should be like from a software that lock-in. For instance, there's a Joget when we say a low-code, no-code platform, where that most of tech savvy persons used to use for these softwares to build their services without with a less dependence to the IT guys. There is Oracle. Oracle, it is very famous, and I'll be happy now to know most of people here that who have been working to the Oracle. It will be good. Microsoft's ERP and Aqua Banking at T24 most of the core banking at T24. When there is another lock-in, when it becomes to the hardware. Some organizations may prefer, when we say hardware, there is HP, there is a Lenovo, there is a different known hardwares vendors most famous. When we say cloud lock-in, at the moment we have now 4 clouds as service. There is AWS, there's Microsoft, which is called Azure, there is Google Cloud, and there is some Oracle cloud infrastructure. There is another lock-in where the service lock-in. Service most of the times when there is a company and organizations need to work with a third party to support for their business, to help them to unlock when there is a deep stack or if there is a big incident. These are kinds of modes for the category where that vendor lock-in, it has to become. For each and every category, it has to have its own strategy to be approached. By understanding if it is a software that lock-in, there is a way to deal with. There is hardware lock-in, there is cloud lock-in, there is service lock-in. I'll be happy maybe to be distracted in case you see something that you want to ask. Maybe I can even ask Grace, the way that we should opt. Yes, there is a time for the questions, but I think these sessions, it can be really interactive as much as possible. Okay, and that is to share with the knowledge and even to challenge each other. A real world case for the vendor lock-in. I'm starting with licensing and lock-in. How these interrelated? Okay. For instance, is there any persons who know the Joget license? Joget, just in a platform Joget. No. Okay. It's a platform for the low codes and no codes. Most of the times, for the organizations when they need to build a software and applications, they used to have an IT guys. They used to have a different IT persons within their department, software engineers, software developers, software, yeah, a database engineer, a cloud solution architect. For the Joget, it is a low code, no code. It is a platform. It is like when we say WordPress, Joomla, those kinds of platform, persons with a tech savvy, not really having a deep IT, they can be able not to start with to build their business applications for the short time period. Joget licensing, here it is maybe, who knows Oracle license? Is there any person who have been able user with the Oracle? For these solutions, I need first to know if there is someone who used any of it, and then we discuss. Because for each, it has its a constraint, it has its deep soft policy things related. Is there any person who have been using or have been interacting with the Oracle product? Okay, no problem. Maybe let me talk about for the Oracle licensing. Oracle, it is commonly known for its enterprise resource planning. Enterprise resource planning, it is a big platform where that a government, a private institutions, bank, fintech, they used to acquire for the solution so that they can be able to digitize their services, even to have it as a core database for their business strategy processes when they deal with data management and even reporting. For this ERP, it has more features like human capital management, payment processing, procurement, made different features they need. For the Oracle licensing, here they have a tricky. Where it becomes when you want to partner with the Oracle, I'm saying through the experience, I went through it, even Oracle licensing model, they have what we call, they have what we call a contract and the negotiations based on the product that you like. You get a contract and then you sign with them. If you say you will be able to pay for the monthly, annual, applies even you agreed. There is what they have soft policy. Soft policy, they have some enforced policy enhancement, which can be having some even fines. They say if you partner with an oracle, by the time you are not satisfied with their services, and then maybe you are working with the oracle for the 3 years. For the 4th year, you are not paying them, and then they have cancelled the services. Okay, maybe for the 7 years, you need to resume the service again. By the time you are going to resume any product for the oracle, there is what we call reinstatement fee. Reinstatement fee, it is 150 fines for those years you didn't be able to use their services. So if you don't understand those different policies behind with the licensing model, subscription, acquiring, and then you have a deep understanding to the exit, contract, customized benchmark, you end up, you are working with a company, but later in 10 years, you need to stop the services, and after 5 years you have assessed that there is a good product from Oracle you need to be working with. By that time you have to pay 1,500 fines. There is 100 out of 100 for the services plus 50% for the fines for those years you didn't be able to use. They have what they call soft policy licensing. That's one of the example that I will discuss how not to deal with this. Microsoft licensing. Those are the products offered to the Microsoft. For each and every licensing, if there is licensing, most of the companies used to fall in a trap to assess their beautiful features, business, how they will be supported, how they will be having an added value for money while they are using these systems. For these softwares, this is adoption for the new technologies, which is good. There is an automation, there is a digital transformation journey where that most of the business, even they boost their revenue. But later, there is indirect vendor lock-in. If you had a contract as this without customizing it away, and you came up a contract which will be giving you a room to exit by the time you need. This is very needed when it becomes to the licensing. Otherwise, most of the companies fall in the trap. These systems most of used, I'm just listing for these kinds of systems who have been famous using core banking. 75% all over the world, they use core banking, which is called T24. It is terminals 24 hours. A risk and consequence. When you fall in the trap among of these famous companies, corporations, even there are a lot. There is a high switching cost in the elected that you didn't ever plan. There is not reduced enough flexibility where that you don't have a room to change any vendor because of you have building everything on top of that vendor. Okay, there is a reduced flexibility to look for the around other technology adoption. There is not a security and compliance risks. When a security and compliance risks, let us try to understand politics risk and conflict. Let us say there is a country A, okay? A country A and there is a country B. The country A, the customers, the private companies, they are using a solutions from the country B, okay? For the country A and country B, they have a political conflict. And country A, they have now released an official announcement that any company that are still using these technologies that acquired from this country, they will be punished. And from that time, you have been working your business on top of, yeah, very simple. Let us have, for this soft, for this codes war between maybe Russia, even with the USA, maybe China for the business, now politics, now competitiveness. Okay, everyone knows to have the product from China to USA, there's some tax to be added, and also some products from Russia to the some of the country within Europe. Yeah, there's some additional tax. Okay, imagine by the time your company rely on on a vendor that are from a country X, but the country that the business is currently operating with, you end up there is fines, there is an official announcement from the cabinet, from the ministry that mandate and forcing you to release those technology, even to cancel any partnership, because you have been building everything on top of the vendors from that you have already outsourced this basically from that country. You end up starting goes to the bankrupt immediate effect because of you were laying on one vendor, and then the politics competitiveness, politics conflict, they cause you an issue, which is where that you don't comply with the government policy. It's because of you have been working to the salary vendors. You didn't able not to plan ahead to have multiple vendors, so that if you have maybe 10 products, if you have 10 products, imagine if you have 10 products, if you have 10 products, you should be able not to understand that 5 or to 6 core products, this should be hosted on top of different vendor solutions alternatively, so that by the time there is a conflict, there is a compliance policy, you need to comply. At least you can say that for these a few days, we are only offering this kind of business. Maybe later that will be a switching another one instead of closing the doors because of compliance issue. There is an unpredictable cost. When there is sales strategy, negotiations, and marketing team from a vendors, they used to let you know understand the benefits. They don't try to let you know understand what will happen in case you need to cancel the contract, by the time you need to exit the contract, by the time maybe you say, okay, for this year, yeah, for instance, for the period for the pandemic, period of the war, can say, please, our partners for this year, the benefits, the profit, it doesn't went well. We need a service fee to be waived. Maybe next year will be paying. It will unless you the subscription, because you didn't try to understand into deep for the contract legal regulatory from their perspective, because whatever that they do, they make sure that there is a lot of policies, a lot of laws, a lot of the regulations to be backed up by the time they have an issue with the client. Okay, as an advice, it is not advised to get entrapped by having or to be biased with the products, but without taking like 30 days to rethink again by projecting the cost might happen for the 5 years in 10 years. Interoperability strategy. when we say interoperability in a strategy, it is where that there is a reduced flexibility. Let me try to explain this one. A business that, let's say we have a fintech, it's a financial banking organization, bank, AB bank, or with there is a World Bank, or there is a XYZ bank. They are using a certain solutions related to the database related. It is core for the Oracle. Or because Oracle, it is known enterprise database all over the world. If there are other competitive like Microsoft SQL. So before you go to the licensing, you need to think about turnover and benefit for each year, and then you think, okay, for today we are paying a certain amount on top of to the licensing subscription to the Oracle. Okay, for the 5 years, if business we plan to get more benefits, but think about in the time that instead of going to the having a lot of money, and that you end up with the profit starts slowing down. Okay, and then from this time you need to think which alternative technologies, which alternative solution can we use. Okay, you need to have, this is commercial solutions. By the time we need to cancel this commercial solution, do we have any alternative open source solutions, a community versions that we can use for the temporary time that we are not be able not to resume the service, or we are not be able not to pay the service on time? Is it compatible to have this data to be migrated to the other technologies? Most of these commercial solutions, they have another tools when you need to deal with some interoperability with another systems. There is another third services. They tell you that, so in order to have a smooth migrations, you need to pay this solution. If you pay this solution, will help you to harmonize data consistency, data compatibility. Okay, and then it is an additional service cost you didn't be able to plan. And even sometimes it is very expensive, which will enforce you to remain with the service now subscription, and then you cancel migration. But by the time you can invest like a double a cost for the 1 year, and then you become autonomous, and then you become free. It is a good investment. But when do you plan to be an autonomous for your solution? Let us have a 10 years a strategy. For the startup company, we are using a commercial solution. Okay, among of the 10 personnel that we have in our department, so in 5 years, are we be able that our employees, they are ready in terms of upskill, in terms of technology, in terms of new things adopted? Okay, so that by that time we can change this solution to the open source solutions, but we are sure that they have equipped knowledge to sustain the business continuity, and even for the disaster recovery, in order to have a good reputations for the services product that we are offering to the customers. So when there's a deal to have with a commercial solutions, you have to plan ahead of maybe minimum 5 years. If you are biased with the added value without thinking about to the additional consequences might be coming, it should be an issue that you have invested something a lot, and then later in 5 years, by the time the product is mature, that you think you are going now to multiply interest, and then you are, instead of having multiple even multiplied interest, even profit turnover, you are paying a lot because of you keep see some additional features. Some vendors, they have a solution where that it 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 has more than 10 features. For the first time, they say for the 3 years, 1 year, second year, and the third year, they are giving all of the features you can use in them for the same price. But each and every client, after 3 years, they used to increase the cost. And then most of the clients, they are not aware about that policy. For the fourth year, the vendor, they are sending an invoice. This invoice is guaranteed for the 1 month. If you don't pay this service fee, we will cancel the service that we are offering to you. And then imagine they are sending an invoice. You used to pay like 1 million euro or 1 million USD per year. And then after 3 years, they are sending an invoice with even some additional document that they are telling you that this is a policy in order to give a good customer satisfaction for the first, second, and third year. We waiver those service fee, okay? And for the fourth year, they are sending double, like 2 million USD per year for the fourth and even six. And then during the financial planning, budgeting within the organization, within an institution, you didn't able not to plan. So this will put the board of management, even senior management, to get the unallocated budget to be availed. Otherwise, the service would be cancelled, and then there will be bad reputation so far in a way that they can't keep serving their customers. This is a very terrible most of the vendors used to do. If you understand, whatever that you deal with vendor, you ask them like, okay, we are doing subscription for this now 3 years, but I need to understand, is there any policy behind that will be maybe price increase? Is it annual? Is it only which exponential multiplication? Is it double? Is it twice? Is it not 3 times per year? Okay. And then for those questions you used to ask, you make sure that this should be written down to the benchmark artifact within a contract. As if there is a contract already signed, you should do to the next year, while even if you're still having the warranty on the service, you should do the amendment early instead of waiting those behind points to be applied to the organizations, where that the auditing will come that this manager, this head of technology, this head of a business unit, they did a good initiative, but it is causing a problem to the organization. This need to be careful, otherwise you may start generating a lot of profit and a promise to the client. By the time you need to give some shares bond, even some stakeholders need to retrieve their shares, and then the company start to go to the bankrupt because of an organization can't be able not to afford the price about the vendor lock-in. There is a good things, whatever that each and every organization need to start. Yes, I totally understand. For the starting up, you can start with commercial things, but it is not recommended to start with an open source adoption, and then you empower the technology, information, technology skills. You keep upskilling your employees. Another good things, instead of giving, even you pay some services to your employee, and then maybe 1 year or 2 years they leave you, there is another tricky that you had. Yes, you talk to the employee, an officer that we want to give you some knowledge base, but here we have an additional bonding in a contract. If now we pay you an upskill, maybe for the 5,000 euro or USD, you should be working with us like 1 year. Or if you go before 1 year, you will be able not to pay some amount of money. From that perspective, that you are sure that the knowledge you have empowered for that employee, at least you have assurance for a certain period. Yes, you add some little money, you motivate, but you have some. It's about of strategy and even think before, and also try to understand what will happen in the future. A hybrid cloud architecture. Even if you are using AWS currently it is owned by USA, chairperson Jeff Bezos. Imagine by the time Jeff Bezos might have like an issue with the USA as a country. Think about that time. Okay, you need to be ready. Yes, you need to think. Yes, we are depending on Jeff Bezos services. They are good, but can we have an alternative maybe for the testing? Even if it is testing on our own premise, just alternative infrastructure. By the time there is an issue that I will not be able to comply, you can at least get those critical services you used to offer to the clients, to the customers. You opt them to that arrangement environment while you are sorting out everything that you didn't be able to plan ahead of time. Otherwise, when a vendor had an issue, you also have a multiple issue because your business depends on totally on that vendor. API first. API first, yes, it's a technical word. It is an application programming interface first approach. Whatever you build, don't build a solution as monotone, as with just one single or in one solution. They used to call it monolithy. Instead of having microservices, let's say we have 10 services, okay? If one services has an issue, is it mean all of the 9 services will be not keep running? This is a traditional technologies organizations used to have. If a company it has maybe a consulting services, it have payment gateway where they facilitate an online payment. They used to have interoperability integration with a Visa card, PayPal, MasterCard. At least if Visa card doesn't work, but MasterCard should work. You need to think about service sustainability and service availability. This has to be determined within a post called business continuity and the disaster recovery best practice. And this should be approved from boards, but this should be drafted, this should be prepared by professional persons who understand things and they advise senior management. Here I was trying to explain for each line. Here I'm trying what another strategy even I was talking them. Yes, strategy to avoid locking. Multi-vendor a strategy. Multi-vendor a strategy. A business, even if there is a benefit to work with one vendor, where that for the first product most of the time it is not expensive. For the additional, they used to waive some price. But think about when you are in a situation you can't exit their contract. Any post they do worldwide, it can even affect in your business because you are not on the level of other businesses they are currently using that vendor product. As advisor, as not strategy based approach, multi-vendor a strategy. If you have some product from Oracle, you should think, which product can we get from Microsoft? Which product can we get from Huawei? Which product can we get from HP? Which product can we get from Dell? Which product can we get from Amazon? Yes, there are lots. Even there is some conflict and even some duplicate services from one vendor to another. But at least try to think about how can I sustain, how can I keep serving my customer if this vendor has an issue. Don't have a 100 out of 100 promise. Because whatever they say, they can even have an issue, even they don't plan. But sales team used to tell positive things. If you try to ask, have you ever had any incident where that you have been experiencing an issue to resume a service with a certain customer? Can you take us through what kind of incident, what kind of issues have you been able have with the clients, maybe to understand how those issues was be able not to be solved? Is it was in a negotiation contract, it was acquired by legal, it was acquired by international relations? Try to ask if they can give you even less, but at least you can understand if they have been be able not to work with a client and then they had an issue at certain level. You can pick some words and then you try to think and then you have a contract. Another strategy, yes, open standards and open technologies. Instead of paying a lot to the commercial solutions, maybe you can pay to the starting point, but in parallel, start to empower your skills, start to empower your team. You need to start to give them some upskill. You need to start to think, okay, I have a strategy for the 10 years. 3 years, I will be having flexible contract and exit clauses. If you know there's a post that says, if you exit our contract, if you cancel our contract with the vendor, by the time you want to resume any service with the vendor, there is some fine. There's what they call reinstatement fees. Reinstatement fees, most of the time, they are above to the service you used to pay. You have to be right in the contract, but by the time our company is not satisfied with the solutions that you are offering to us, we can cancel at any time, maybe with 30 years notice. On top of that, by the time we need to resume services, it will be taken as new customers, not a previous or not as I used to be a customer. Otherwise, if you don't have that line in a flexible contract, customized contract, by the time you cancel and by the time you want to resume, you can pay some unpredictable cost. This is an API and interoperability. Best practice, hybrid and multi-cloud approach. If you think you are building a solution that will work more than 10 years, let's have 3 years, you start with commercial, while you will not be able to have a good team. For the 4th up to the 7 years, you should be able to have a team that they can start from scratch their solutions, build it in-house, on top of what they have been using it, and also to adopt even those compliance. And also you keep to be open eyes for the technological trends. For each and every year or 6 months, you need to have a serious regular vendor risk assessment. Why regular vendor risk assessment? Imagine today, let's say we have Microsoft. and Oracle. Today, let's say Oracle, has a good customer relationship, or it's a Salesforce. Is there any person who knows Salesforce? Great, I know Salesforce. Salesforce, it is competitor for the Oracle. It is a good CRM, customer relationship management. It applies. I used to have a Salesforce. Salesforce, it is a competitor to the Oracle. Salesforce, it is related to the NGOs and business processes, customer relationship management. But Oracle, it is purely to the commercial uh, data oriented. Imagine today you are currently working today, you are having a contract with Oracle. In 3 months, Salesforce, because of they have been assessed that the Oracle, it is competitive at high level, at high demand. Salesforce can think from board and even senior management, okay, let us acquire Oracle. And for those customers who have been using to the Oracle, in order to empower our Salesforce products, let us say that Oracle will have been acquired. The price, because of the investment we have been paid to the Oracle owners, Oracle shareholders, Oracle stock and exchange, those things. Oracle product used to be subscribed to the 10 million US per year, and then they triple it to the 30 million US. And then you start thinking, how can I migrate data from Oracle because of this high cost to go to the Salesforce? By the time, if now you thought in before that you should end up with these kinds of tricky for the commercial, for those not big fish in a business, you should be having some alternative. Yes, today I'm relying on the Salesforce, but what can be happen if Oracle acquire with a Salesforce and then they apply some high cost? Am I be having a loan to pay? Is it my profit turnover for each year? Can we be able not to keep affording that price? So might be able to have the engineers can deal for this business continuity, those kind of things. And also building internal expertise. Instead of paying a lot through the service levels, what we used to call an SLA, service level of agreements. It is where that you have a commercial solutions, and then you say, for the first ticket, first level, second level, we can handle on our internal team. Third incident and fourth one, which is maybe we did an upgrade on our solution, and then by the next day, the business, it doesn't work. There is a compatibility issue, and then you ask for the service, and that service is it has mandates costs plus tax. Tax might be with the withholding tax plus VAT. If it is an international, if it is outsourced services from out of the country. Most of the country, if the vendor it is having that solution within the same company business, they used to pay only VAT, value added tax. But when it is a service that you are acquiring from another country, there will be an additional withholding tax, which is total almost like 40 additional cost. So it's not a small amount of money based on the subscription amount of money you plan to spend on it. Building an internal expertise. You have a strategy. For this year, we can lay on to the vendor support. Next year, we will decrease our dependence from 100 out of to the half. Third year, engineers, employees, make sure zero request to the vendor. For the third year, we are sure at least we can sustain, we can start canceling support service subscription. For the fifth year, we can start thinking that, okay, now we are mature enough for the product, even if there's still some new release. But if now we understand the solution, we can be even try to do our migration. We can start to explore an open source solution. We can customize it maybe in 1 year, and then we exit from vendor lock-in and we build our sustainable autonomous solution, which is called the building internal expertise. Open source alternative, most of for the hosting, there is Linux, Windows, there is license. For PostgreSQL, it is open source for database, but commercial, it is Oracle. If it doesn't Oracle, it is a Salesforce. Maybe Grace can take us through maybe a bit. Even Salesforce, it is cost. It cost. Salesforce, it has some license subscription, which is very cost somehow. For the hosting, vendor specific orchestration like VMware, like Lady Hat, like Oracle, which is no longer to be commercial. Now it is Oracle Cloud virtualizations. You can think about Kubernetes. Here, there's no strategy. Instead of paying a lot to the infrastructure, what if I pay to the good employee who has a knowledge to build from open source to be to the level of the solution? It is standardized, it is customized, fully scaled to afford our business services and products. Vendor selection and negotiations. This is very key. You need first of all some key consideration before signing. Apart from MOU, apart from contract based on the product artifact benchmark, apart from, you need to understand, is there any behind policy? Is there any annual or periodical price increase? If it is increased already written to their internal policy, how is it rate percentage to the price based on the annual profit turnover? So imagine you are acquiring a service and for each and every year they used to add a half. Do you think how many businesses or companies or governments can be able to afford it? Still a few. Yes, you need to understand what is red flags to watch for. Red flags to watch for before, those are kinds of, even you try to ask at the moment, how many clients you are working with? What is the experience even for those clients? Most of these companies, some of the experts are for the engineers. You need to understand their existing businesses experience. You need to understand a testimony from a different clients. Even you can visit them behind. Even you go to their LinkedIn profile, you double check some employees use network with them. If you see some senior consultant expertise, you ask them to have with the 1 day a consultation. You ask them, yes, you have been working for these companies and I need to use their solutions. I need your advice for their products. What can you let me know before I sign the contract? What is red flags within their business? Because most of the mature engineers used to work now with Oracle. After 10 years or 15 years, they used to be a consultant. To consult for those companies need to use the Oracle product. Engineers used to work with a sales force after 10 years or 15 years. They used to resign from that company because of they understand how the business was revolutionized. They understand their audit tricky. They understand their fine tricky. And then you can try to work with them. You can benchmark your contract, and then you can come up with a good strategy to negotiate with them. Instead of paying a lot on the first initial phase, you pay some additional amount of money, like with a 5 days consultation, and then you get a trick to understand more about their solution. Negotiation, it is best practice. If the company doesn't have an experience to negotiate with them, there is some third-party experiences, a consulting firm. They used to have those experienced engineers who used to work with those companies. And then you can work with them. Okay, I need to have a deal with a vendor, but before I sign a contract, this is the amount. But the licensing, it is about like 5 million. Okay, but 5 million euro on my business, I can be able not to afford maybe 1 million. But I have another 200,000 euro, maybe I can pay for you. Can you advise me the way to negotiate with them? What are the critical modules and features that I can start using? Case study, maybe because of the time, I will take you through this and steps to exit lock-in and lock-in in vendors. You didn't plan, you didn't have a time to think about it. Then, first of all, before you woke up early morning, you tell the procurement, finance, please cancel this call or contract. No, no, no. You need first of all to identify a dependencies. You need first of all to identify, if I do this, what will happen? If I cancel this contract, what will happen? Even you try to contact with your legal department. If your legal department, they are good, experienced, you can even get some external consulting firm to advise you. Plan migration. If you plan, I need to migrate my business processes from Microsoft to the Salesforce. How is it compatible? How is it cost? What are the tools are being needed? What are the resources I will need? The resources means there is hardware resources, there is money resources for some additional tools to be used. Resources, there is time you will be doing the migration without serving where your clients. You need to come up with a plan for the migration from this vendor to an alternative solution. You need to execute in phase transition. Phase transition, don't cancel everything in one day, same month, same year. You have 3 vendors. First start with one vendor while you are sustaining the others. After you are fully exit without no additional fines, you start with another one. You start another one. So it is a journey. It is a roadmap. Don't think like it is just chap chap. No, just plan ahead of time. You do in a phase out. Capacity building, it is really advanced, empowering your IT teams, training to the open technologies. You need even to have like a policy that within to the human capital management for the human resources employees. You need to have a policy that for each and every employee should upskill their knowledge based on their career at least at every 6 months or for each and every year. The latest technologies, even other solutions, employee is mandated to acquire a new skills. This will help you by the time you need to adopt a new technologies you think can help you to reduce some costs while you need to digitize everything, while you need to maximize profit turnover. Reducing variance on the proprietary vendors. Action plan, you need first to checklist for the vendor's evaluation. You need to come up with a cloud and database migration. Skills development initiative, I've already talked about it. So open floor for the discussion, your word queries, whoever that has an issue. I hope the session was good. Yes, there are lots, but I would love to hear some questions, and everyone who joined us while we already started, feel welcome, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hodard. That was a wonderful presentation. And thanks for sharing your insights. Very good information. So, any questions, anybody? Let's open the floor for questions. I have a question, Hodard. I know you probably
Yes.
touched on this already, you addressed this, but so how do you help clients avoid vendor lock-in concerns over the long term? What are the best practices? I know you talked about some of this already, but I kind of, in short, like if you summarize, how do you think is the best practice?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, it is to understand which industry that client, that business is. Because based on the industry, it might be having more than one vendor, or that industry might be having a lot of solutions. First of all, need to understand the industry. Is it fintech? Is it edtech? Is it telecom? And also need to have like at times to consult with their solution as is. Before you adopt a change, it is mandate to understand, maximize into depth the business processes as is, which solutions and which contracts they are currently having. After understanding that one, they have to look around on which levels about to the expertise for the internal employees they have, or the resources that they might be needed from outsourcing out of the company, so that they can be able to benefit to the alternative solution. Once they have identified the solutions, they have to plan in a phased approach to exit a vendor lock-in and try to understand the solution cons and even plus, consequences and even some advantages and disadvantages, and the plan maybe 3 years. Most of the time for this journey for the vendor lock-ins, it is not one day, it is not 6 months. Most of the time it is from 1 year to the 3 years. And also they have to avail all of the contract as well on time to try to go through it so that we understand there's no additional features about to define, or there's some reinstatement fees might become after the free exit, which might be raising some audit query on top of any cancellation and on top of the stoppage. Simply try to understand business process as is, on which solutions they are currently owning, on which level of expertise for their personnel they have, and which solutions do we think they can support from more than 5 years to 10. Any solutions that we suspect there is an issue after 1 year or two to the second year, I can't advise to use that solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hodard. That was great to hear all your insights. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we hope to see you next time. And thanks again, Hodard, for this great presentation. You have a nice evening and take care.